Hey everyone, welcome back. In this one, we are going to level up beveling. I will show you how to get better and precise bevels or roundings inside the surface workflow. This tutorial will also feature UV unwrapping. This is going to be the first one in the series. By the way, if you haven't watched the first 3 tutorials before that one, this tutorial might be a bit hard to follow up, so make sure to watch the previous ones. By the way, let me make this full screen so that you can stop the video and take a screenshot. This is the cam that we are going to model in this tutorial. If you are ready, let's get into the tutorial. First, I am going to add in a cube. Adjust the shape by dragging these points. By the way, this is going to be quite important. I will adjust the shape in a way that I will not extrude any polygon in. Let me show you what I am talking about. I will make this cube editable. I will hit C on the keyboard, then I will go into Edge Mode and drop that loop in around here. I will go into Polygon mode and grab Move Tool. I will select the polygon, hold down Ctrl and extrude that in. This extrusion will give us these unwanted and overlapped polygons. These are quite hard to clean up, let alone cleaning. It is quite hard to see what is going on with the shape. So this is why we should not extrude in anything if you don't have any surrounding geometry like these polygons. If you have this kind of geometry, it is okay to extrude in, but if you don't have any boundary geometry, you should not extrude anything in. To solve this problem out, what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete that cube and start over again. But this time around, I will be more careful with the size or the shape of this cube. Let's go into model mode and adjust the shape again. As I said, I will be more careful about the size. I will build this up in a way that I will only extrude things out. So for that reason, I'm trying to get the perfect thickness, like this one. For the X size, I will adjust it a bit, then we are good to go. Now I will make it editable. I will hit C on the keyboard, then go into Edge Mode, right click. I will select the lookout tool and I will drop this one around here. It doesn't have to be exact. Then I will go into Polygon mode, Move Tool. This time around, I will extrude this outwards, like so. Now that I got the rough shape, now I will move on to the next step. In this next step, we are going to work on the bevels. Most of the time, I follow this order. First, rough shape. Second, bevels or roundings. Third, topology correction. Fourth, edge sharpening or sporting edges. And finally, smaller details such as that hole. So in this second step, we are going to bevel out these edges. So I will go into edge mode. I will select the edges that I want to bevel. I'm going to Alt and Shift and select these corner edges. Finally, I'm going to Alt and Shift and add that edge to my selection because I want all these edges to have the same amount of bevel. Next up, let's right click and select the bevel tool. I will not change anything in the settings of the bevel tool. I will just right away apply the tool. That seems fine. Now, as I talked about the order, next up I will correct the topology because we have lots of Ngons, like these guys, that one and that one. By the way, let me show you a really super efficient tool that will show you any Ngons or triangles you have on a mesh. I will come over to modeling settings, go to mesh checking, enable it. I will turn off these options. I will just enable triangles and Ngons. From now on, any triangle or Ngon will be highlighted on the mesh. Let me go into points mode. I will right click, grab Polygon pen tool and connect that point to that one. We simply turned that Ngon into two quads. I will do the same thing here. I will first go into point mode. By the way, you can stay in polygon mode as well. Polygon pen tool works in every component mode. Point mode makes it a bit easier to see. That point to that point. By the way, let me turn off the work plane, it gets in our way. That polygon in the middle looks a bit odd, so we need to get rid of it. It is going to be quite easy. I will just connect that point to that one to that one. Then I'm going to merge that point to that one. Now we have turned all these Ngons into quads, but it is not done. We need to continue to work on the other ones. I will do the same thing here. That point to that one and that point to that one. I'm going to orbit around the mesh. It seems like we corrected all the Ngons. Let me go into edge mode, move tool, select that edge and move it on the X because I want a straight flow. We corrected the topology, but it is not done yet. We need to even out the polygon sizes. More importantly, we need to work on these bevels. To demonstrate it better, I will jump over to a new scene. In that scene, I have a very similar bevel. I will add in a subdivision surface and put that cube under it. Let me hit N and B to see the wireframes. Let's go to the front view. As you can see, the bevel is not looking well. It is not accurate. The reason is subdivision surface is trying to average out the polygon sizes because the polygon sizes are not even. Basically, when the subdivision surface is enabled, it is going to try to move that edge towards the nearest one, that one. And this is what we are going to get. But if I add in a loop right next to the starting point of the bevel, like around here, the bevel is going to look way better. Let's hit Q, and I'm going to hit NNA. Let's go to the front view. As you can see, this time around, the bevel is looking very well. There is one thing we need to watch out, and it is the length of these edges. These are the edges that are forming the bevel, so the lengths of these edges should be the same, more or less. I usually do this by eyeballing. It doesn't have to be perfect. Something like that should give us a nice rounding. Let's go back to our original file. So I will need a loop right next to the starting point of the bevel, somewhere around here. To do that, I will right click and grab loop cut tool. It's not going to work. The reason is we have a pole over here. A pole is a point with 3 edges or more than 4 edges. So it's not going to allow us to add a loop cut. So we are going to use the second method. By the way, make sure to watch the previous tutorials before diving into this one, because the things I talk about may sound alien to you. So it is really important to watch the basics before jumping into this one. So let's select that loop by holding Shift. As I said, I will apply the second method that I talked about in the previous tutorials, which is the sliding option. So I will right click, select slide. I will hold down Control and clone this off. I will watch out the length of that edge. That seems fine. Now let's do the same thing on the other bevels, such as that one. This time around, we do not have any poles. It means that I can drop in a loop without any problem. Loop cut tool. I will drop this one around here and that one around here. I know I keep repeating myself a lot, but this is quite important. We need to watch out the lengths of these edges. Next up, let's grab the tool again. I will drop this one around here. It seems like we do not have any poles around the geometry, so I will be able to add that loop without any problem. That seems fine. We got that bevel, that one as well, that one as well, that one. So the last one we need to work on is this one. Just like what I did with the other bevels, I will drop in a loop right next to the starting point of the bevel, somewhere around here, then here. Now that I got the bevels, now let me work on these polygon sizes. I want to simply even out these polygon sizes. To do that, I will drop in a loop right here by holding Shift. Then I will increase up the segments to say 4. That pole will not allow me to add that loop cuts, so I will use sliding option. I will just double click on these edges, slide tool, hold down Control. I will do that twice. Now I will add in a loop horizontally, hold down Shift, and increase these up until I have something even. That looks fine. Next up, I want to go into edge mode, select these edges. By the way, if you hold down Control and Shift and select a distant edge, it's going to select the edges in between. Now I will select Scale tool, start to scale on the Z. I'm going to hold down Shift and stop at 0. This is a nice way to flatten out things in Cinema 4D. Next up, let's use Slide tool again, hold down Control and clone these up. Next, Polygon pen tool, because we have an Ngon, I will connect it, point to that one to that one. I will right click, grab Slide tool again. I'm going to clone that edge loop one more time, Polygon pen tool, and connect it, point to that one. I will connect these 2 points, then I will hold down Control and get rid of this diagonal edge. Now we have all quads. Perfect. Let's do the same thing here. Connect that point to that one, connect that point to that one, hold down Control and get rid of this diagonal edge. Next up on the list is edge sharpening. We got the rough shape, we got the bevels, and finally we got a really nice topology. So next up is edge sharpening. I'm going to first add in a subdivision surface and drop that cube under it. You know why we need to sharpen up the edges? Because subdivision surface is going to smooth everything. In our case, we need to sharpen up these edges. So I will hold down Shift and select these edges. By the way, I am in edge mode. Hold down Shift. Select all these sharp edges. Then Bevel tool. This time around, I will go into solid mode and apply the tool. In default military mode, we are going to get these triangles. The reason is, again, we have a pole. So to fix that problem, before applying the bevel tool, I will set this to uniform. I will do it one more time. This time it's going to work just perfect. Let's do it live. I will hit Q to enable sub-D and bevel these out. So we can see the sharpness amount. This is looking fine. Let me zoom out. Yeah, I'm really happy with the result, especially with these roundings. These are looking quite well. Now, let's work on the last thing on the list, which is that hole. To get it, I'm going to just, let's see, select these polygons, 3 by 3. Then right-click, hit Circle tool. I'm going to move that up slightly. You know what? Let me hit Ctrl-Z. I'm going to apply inset first, then apply the tool. Yeah, this is going to be a bit better. I will just move these around because these are too close to each other. Now I will hold Control, move these in, Scale tool, scale these in, Move tool, hold down Control, and move these on the Z. Next up, to sharpen up these edges, I will apply the same approach. Hold down Shift, select these edges. By the way, your selection will stop at these poles. So if you wonder why this happens, this is the reason. I'm going to hold down Shift and select these again. I will right click, select Bevel Tool, go into solid modes. Let's do it live, hit Q, then apply the Bevel Tool, click off. Somehow I accidentally moved that edge out. This is why we are getting that artifact on the surface. To fix this problem, I will go into edge modes, then I will grab the slide tool, move that point up, that one as well, then I will move this down. This is going to average the position of that edge. Now that area should be really flat. Let's hit Q. Yeah, perfect. Now let's work on the lens. As you can guess, I'm going to add in a cylinder, change the orientation to Z. Let's go to the front view. I'm going to hit N and G to see through. I will go into model mode, move tool, move these to the correct position. Let's drag these points around to adjust the shape. That seems fine. Now I will make this cylinder editable. I'm going to hit C on the keyboard. These triangles will be highlighted. I don't think we need that option anymore, so I will come over here and turn this off. I will go into polygon modes. I'm going to select these polygons by holding right mouse, then an inset, another one, but this time I will move this on the Z. Let's add in another inset. I'm going to Alt and Control and move these on the Z. Now I want to separate these into a new object to model the inside of this lens. So I'm going to right click and click on Split. I will go back to the original one and delete these polygons. Now let's go back to the new one. I will grab the scale tool and scale this up. Then right click, inset. I'm going to Alt and Control, move these on the Z. Another inset. By the way, you can use the scale tool to inset polygons. All you need to do is Alt and Control and scale these in. Let's select the move tool, move these on the Z. Now I will select the scale tool, Alt and Control, scale these in, move tool, Alt and Control, and move these on the Z. I can delete these polygons. I will hit delete on the keyboard. Now I want to work on these steps. To do it, I'm going to grab the cut tool again, hold down shift and add this one right in the middle of the mesh. Once I have done that, I will start to increase up the cuts to say 9 or 10. Then I will go into edge mode, move tool. I'm going to double click on these edges by holding shift. Then scale tool, scale these up or down. Let's scale these up. Now we can start to work on spotting edges to make the edges sharp. First, I'm going to drop this one under the subdivision surface. Subdivision surface will only affect the object, the first object below. So we need to group these objects. To do that, I will drop a null to the scene. Then I will select all these objects and put them under that null. And finally, I will drop that null under the subdivision surface. Let's call this cam. I'm going to call this base, lens in, and lens. Now subdivision surface will affect everything. I'm going to select the lens. By the way, let me come over here and set this to default shading. You can also use the shortcuts NNA and NNB to see the wireframes. I use them all the time, NNA and NNB. Now to sharpen up these edges, this time around, let's use a different technique. I mean, it is not that different. I will just add in loop cuts. Looks fine. What about the back? I'm going to solo this object, going to Polygon mode, Move Tool, Alt and Shift, and select these polygons. I will make an inset and delete the polygons. Let's turn off the solo mode, enable sub-D. That side will need a loop cut. Loop cut tool, add this one in. Click off. Looks fine. Let's work on the inside of the lens. I will use the loop cut tool again to sharpen up the edges. Time to time, I will be hitting Q. That part is looking a bit tight, so I will double click on that loop, right click, slide tool, hit Q. Perfect. Finally, I will add in that sapphire. So let's come over here and add in a sapphire. I will go into object mode, scale tool, scale that down. You can also use that point as well. Let's go to the front view, move tool. I will move this into the correct position, scale it down, move it on the Z. Nice. Now I will hit NNB. Go to the sphere and set this to hexahedron. This is going to give us a proper topology. I just lower down the segments to say 12. I don't think we need to have the back, so I will make it editable. Hit C, edge mode, double click. Once I have done that, I will hit V, go to select and select fill selection. Click on that half and delete these polygons. Now let's go into model mode, move tool, move it on the Z. And finally, I will drop this one under the cam null. I'm going to hit NNA. The only missing thing is that part. So I will split these out, these selected polygons, right click, split. I will call this button. Then to extrude these out, I will hold that control and move this on the Z. Let's enable sub-D. This one is looking fine, but just to make sure, I will solo it and drop in that loop. Okay, the modeling is done. Now we are going to jump into UV unwrapping. Let's head over to UV Edit Layout. Before proceeding further, let me give a bit context on the subject. UV unwrapping simply aims to project 3D objects onto 2D surfaces so we can texture 3D objects. To demonstrate the process in the most basic way, I have a perfect image over here. So to unfold that paper cup, you need to cut it right. We call these cuts seams in 3D world. It is going to be all about getting these seams, at least for this tutorial, because this is the first one in the series that features UV unwrapping. I don't want to push it too much. I don't want to overwhelm you. So throughout the process, I want to keep it as simple as possible. Let me start with the base. I will move it to the top. This object has some UV information, but it is useless. I will just hit Ctrl A and reset them. By the way, for some reason, Texture UV Editor has a different color. It might be only me, or it is something that they updated. I don't know, so you can just ignore that part. Let's select the base again. I will solo it. I will also turn off subdivision surface. I will go into edge mode. As I said in the beginning of the process, it is going to be all about the seams. So usually, especially when it comes to hard surfaces, you start with this kind of sharp edges as seams. So I will double click on that edge, which is going to select the whole loop. Then I'm going to Alt and Shift, select these ones as well. I'm just trying to find the sharpest edges. Alt and Shift, nice. Notice I am not selecting these edges because these edges are part of the rounding. Next up, these are quite sharp, so I will Alt and Shift. Let's orbit around the mesh for the last time, just to make sure. Okay, seems fine. Now I will come over here to the UV Unwrap and click on it. The result is pretty fine, except for that island and that island. You can tell it right away. That island and that island is looking weird. By the way, I am in the Polygon mode to select UV islands. Just double click on an island and it's going to select it all. Now let's zoom in. The reason why we are getting that weird look is simply we do not have a seam. That polygon islands or that selection is a perfect loop. It needs a cut to be unfolded. So to get that seam, I will first go into edge mode. I'm going to select these edges. And usually you want to select these seams from the least visible part of a mesh. Once I have done that, I will open up the UV Unwrap options and enable this one, restrict to polygon selection, so that it is going to only unwrap that selected polygon island. I'm going to click on OK. Let's back out. Now this is looking just perfect. Now let's work on the other one. I will double click on the island to highlight it. As you can see, this is another loop, a cylinder. It doesn't have an exit point, so we need to cut it through. First, I will just double click on the island to unwrap this section only. Then I will go into edge mode. I'm going to select these edges by holding Shift. Then click on UV Unwrap. Now I will hit Ctrl A to select everything. I will orbit around the mesh just to make sure that I didn't miss anything. Okay, seems fine. Next up, we need to align these UV islands. So I will come over here to textures and open up UV map. This UV map will allow us to align these UVs. Let's start with this one. I'm going to click on that polygon. Then I will come over here to the UV texture editor and double click on that island. To rotate this UV island around, I will come over here to the transform and type in 90 and click on apply. 2 more times and now it is aligned. Next up, let's select the polygon. Then double click on the islands. I need to rotate it around again, so I will come over to the transform and click on apply. Seems fine. Next up, let's click on that polygon to see. Double click on the island again. That seems fine. Yeah, I can read these letters and numbers. Finally, let's select that island, double click on it. I will rotate it one time. Nice, then that one. Seems fine to me. Now that we aligned the UVs, it is time to pack them because now they are all around in different sizes. To fix that, I will hit Ctrl A first, then come over to UV packing, enable preserve orientation, because we rotated some of these islands to align. So I will enable this option. And finally, I will enable equalize island size. This option will adjust the sizes of these polygons based on the 3D shape. Let's hit Ctrl A to select them all and click on apply. We are done, so I will turn this off. As you can see, we have a big amount of empty space over here. The process could have been better and more effective, as we are going to waste that empty space. This is something I want to get into in the upcoming tutorials. As I said, I don't want to overwhelm you with a lot of information, but basically you can grab that island, move it. You can scale it up, or you can use UV packing tool. I will just click on apply, then UV transform and move it down. This is going to be really useful, especially when you want to, texture that area only. You can maximize the UV space in that way. But let me hit Ctrl Z. Let's do that in a different tutorial. So the next up on the list, let's turn off solo mode. I'm going to select the button and move it up. Let's hit Ctrl A and click on Reset UV. You know the process. First, seams. So I'm going to double click on that sharp edge loop, then click on UV Unwrap. This one is going to be okay, but this one is not. The reason is it is a cylinder, it is a loop, it needs an exit point, aka seam. So I will go in the edge mode, select these edges, then click on UV Unwrap. Now to align that UV better, I will click on that edge and then click on Align UV Irons. Now it's time to pack these as these UVs overlap. So I will go into Polygon mode, Control A. You can also deselect everything. I will come over to UV packing and click on Apply. Next, let's work on the lens. I will turn off solo modes, move it up, Control A, reset. Now what I'll do is I will go into Edge mode to select seams. Then let's zoom in. I'm going to Alt and Shift and select these sharp looking edges. Let's not forget this one. Let's enable solo mode, Alt and Shift. Now I will come over to UV Unwrap and click on UV Unwrap. Let's go into Polygon mode and double click on this one because we need to, add a seam because this is a loop, this is a cylindrical mesh. So I will go into Edge mode. I'm going to Alt and Shift select these edges as seams, then click on UV Unwrap. Next up, let's go into Polygon mode, double click on that island. We need to cut it as well because this is a cylinder. So edge mode, select that edge and click on UV Unwrap. This is going to be it. Now let's try to align these UV map. I'm going to go into Polygon mode. Let's start with this one. It's not that bad actually. Maybe we can rotate it a few times. That one, let's double click, then scale it up. This time around, I believe I just need to flip it. So I will come over here and click on Mirror V. Then I believe we will need Mirror U. Click on it. Here we go. To align it better, I'm going to select that edge. Then click on Align UV Islands. I will hit E, Move Tool, and move it off. Next step, by the way, sometimes it becomes really hard to see. In such cases, we can select a polygon in 3D World, then come over to Texture UV Editor and hit S to zoom in. Let's double click Scale tool, scale this up. I'm going to select that edge, then click on Align UV Islands. The rest is good. I don't think we need to work on that island as it is not going to be visible. Now it is time to pack these. Polygon modes, Ctrl A, UV packing, and click on Apply. Let's move on to the next one, which is going to be the lens in. Let's move this up. Solid. Select all the polygons in Polygon mode and reset them. This time around, let's combine different methods like projection and relaxing. First, I will go to the front view so that these polygons face us because I will be using projection, like frontal projection. Let's make the front view full screen. Then I will come over here and click on frontal. Move tool, move it down. Let's go to the 3D view. With this method, we are going to get a big amount of distortion, especially on these polygons. The reason is these are not flat, so it is impossible to project these directly onto the surface. But now I will show you a great way to eliminate this distortion. I will double click on the island. At first, you may be tempted to come over to Relax UV and click on Apply. This is an option, but the result is not something that I would prefer. It is not straight. So I will hit Ctrl Z. Instead of Relax UV, I will use UV Weld Tool. This is going to do a way better job. Click on UV Weld, and here we go. Now these polygons will be distortion free. While using this UV Weld tool, make sure that you do not have different UV islands. Otherwise, it is not going to work as intended. In this case, we wanted to use this tool for relaxation. From now on, I can start to split these into different UV islands. So I will go into Edge Mode. Let's select that Sharp Edge. Just to make sure, I will turn this off. Okay, next up, I will hit V, select, and select Field Selection Tool to select that cylinder. Now I will go into Edge Mode, Move Tool, select these edges, then click on UV Unwrap. This is going to be it. Let's open this up again. I will select them all, Ctrl A, UV packing. You know what? I can rotate it a few times. Yes, now I will select them all and pack them. Perfect. The last one is that sphere. Let's apply the same projection. I will go into Polygon mode, select them all. I will go to the front view. Nothing is visible because the solo mode is on. I will turn this off. Now I will come over to the projection and click on frontal. This looks okay. I don't see a big amount of distortion. So I am okay with that. UV packing, click on apply. We are done with the UVs, which means that we can go back to standard layout. Before finalizing the project, I'm going to scale that object to real size. As a reference, I will drop in a cube and change the Y size to, let's say, 10 centimeters. Then I will select the cam. By the way, I am in object mode. I will select scale tool, go to the front view, and start to scale down the cam until it fits in that cube. We can delete the cube. Now I will check the normals are correct. Let's start with the base. I will go into Polygon mode. I will hit Ctrl A to select everything. Orbit around, that looks fine. The bottom looks fine. Lens is fine. This one is also fine. And finally, the sphere is looking perfect. Let's say that you have something like that. In that case, you need to right click and click on Align Normals. In some cases, you will face these kind of normals. If so, right click, this time around, click on Reverse Normals. I will show you one last trick. It is not possible to see UVs in standard layouts unless you open up Texture UV Editor. So let me show you how to create a UV checker material. I'm going to create a new standard material. Go to Color. I'm going to select this texture. By the way, I will provide you this checker texture so you can use in your projects. Then I will drop this one on the cam, on the null, so that this material will be applied to objects below. Finally, I will go to the viewport and change texture preview size to 1K. So this is going to be it for this tutorial. I believe we covered most of the things in UV unwrapping. I mean, it is not possible to cover them all in a single video, but I suppose that was a nice starting point. So if you have any questions, just let me know anytime. You can also join up the Discord server. You can find the link in the description. Hopefully, I will see you in the next month. Bye.